Hello everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. I am ChitChad and welcome back once again to another episode of Planet Coaster where we are making a Mario theme park, and today we're actually going to start things off a bit differently. We're going to be jumping into Photoshop. Now I know this is a scary new world for the channel, but just stick with me because today we are making custom textures for the Super Mario theme park, and I am really excited for it. This is the stuff that I've been talking about since the beginning. This is the stuff that I've been wanting to do, so I'm so glad that we're finally getting to do it. And what better thing to start off with than the question mark block from practically every Mario game. I mean, I can't think of a game that they're not in. I'm pretty sure they probably exist. Maybe probably like one of the Yoshi games or something, but I thought it was a really cool, iconic first texture that we could create. And, you know I probably could have just taken screenshots, but I wanted to make it myself so I can kind of call it my own. And I had a lot of fun with it, and definitely the question mark block I felt like was a good one to start off with, just because it's so iconic, and it's a good way to kind of get the creative flow going. So I'm just really excited. We get so much done in this episode, and the park is really starting to come together. At least this Yoshi, Toad, kids section of the park. And I've gotten a lot of comments about what other areas in the park there are going to be, and we've talked about it a little bit between episodes. And I've said like we're definitely going to have a Princess Peach's castle, which is going to have the Super Mario Kart track ride. We're definitely going to have kind of like a Delfino Plaza, which might have some kind of water ride. I'm not sure yet. And then for sure the biggest thing in this park, as far as the amount of work that's going to go into it, is going to be the Luigi's Mansion dark ride. That one's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to require a lot of animation. And speaking of animation, you are going to definitely want to jump over to my main channel, ChitChad Show, because starting next week, the episodes that are going on there are going to be for this theme park. That's right, we're going to start doing the animation process. So Tuesday is going to be a speed paint of kind of the Yoshi design that we're going to use for the Yoshi coaster, and then Thursday is going to be the animated version of said design. So you're definitely going to want to check out ChitChad Show, because that stuff is going to be used for this park, and I am super excited for it. It's already been recorded. I'm really happy with how it turned out, but you don't get to see it until next week, so you're just gonna have to wait and be patient. But I promise you, it's gonna be really cool and a lot of fun. So definitely check it out. So we made a couple of textures, one of them being obviously the question mark block. We made some of the ground textures, and then the one I definitely wanted to make was kind of the bricks, because we add this brick texture all over the place, and I wanted to make sure that it was relatively seamless so that if I tiled it, it would look good while it was tiled. So this is actually the first time I'm utilizing the screens for a Planet Coaster build. The first time I used them was just a test. I actually imported my animated intro, my old animated intro, in fact, from this gaming series. So, and it looked really, really stinking cool. And that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how it's gonna happen. We are gonna be using animations and using textures, and it's so exciting. And I know I say it all the time, but I am super excited. But I will say, there's something that kind of shakes me up a little bit about these screens. So once you actually turn them on and place them on an object, or whatever inside of an object, when you go to move them, it just turns off all the screens automatically. I don't know why, but it's really frustrating, because anytime, like say I created that question mark block, right? I can duplicate it and then move that duplication and it stays on. As you can see, I'm moving this thing around and it still shows that it's on. As soon as you go to move it, all of them will disappear. They'll just turn off. So then you have to click it again and then turn all the screens back on. I'm gonna assume it's for a reason, but for me, like right there, you see it right there, it turns off. That is really, really frustrating to me, and I don't know why that is. I'm gonna hope that it's for a purpose, whether it's like trying to save on RAM or whatever, but I don't like it. I want that to not be a thing. So I don't know if there's like something I can do on my end where I can like make sure that doesn't happen, but it's a little frustrating. So you got to make sure that you place these objects down the way you want them to start with, or otherwise you're gonna have to be turning on those screens over and over and over again. So we do a lot of things in this episode. I mean, not just place down that these objects with texture on them, but we really start fleshing out more of not only the theming around the Yoshi coaster, but we really start working on the coaster station, which is something I definitely wanted to tackle. And I wanted to be a bit more of an open environment I wanted the coaster stations that kind of have a little bit of a central theming device. So what I had in mind, and you'll see it later, was just kind of having this glass structure over the top of the coaster, and I think I'm going to utilize that throughout the park just to give it kind of like one or two things that are a little bit consistent. You know, you go into certain areas of certain parks and you see like they reuse like awnings, or they reuse some theming elements, and I just think that might be a good one to kind of tie all of it back together, and it's a practical thing. And plus I think more open coaster bays are just really interesting. Of course that's not going to be the case for the dark ride, obviously, because it's all going to be indoor, but for the coasters I definitely wanted to have, I don't know, just a more open environment. I always think that's really cool. It kind of makes me think of oh, what's that ride? California Screamin' over at Disney's California Adventure. That was actually, gosh, okay, so this is going to be really funny. I'm going to share this little bit of a story here with you guys. I was actually, at one point in my life, afraid of roller coasters. That's right. Chad, the theme park making coaster enthusiast, was once afraid of roller coasters. Can you believe that? It's crazy, right? So the reason because is like, I had a horrible experience on, we have a theme park here. I don't even know if I want to call it a theme park, but it's called Castles and Coasters here in Arizona. And I believe it's called the Desert Storm is the coaster. And it is not a good time. It's a little bit janky, and it's not an easy ride. So that was kind of like the first time I had ever experienced a roller coaster that had a loop. And that was my main fear, is like I didn't want to go upside down. Going upside down for whatever reason just spooked the heck out of me. And it wasn't until what was it? Islands of Adventure over at Universal Studios Florida. They have the Hulk roller coaster. It wasn't until that coaster that I finally said, you know what? I'm tackling this fear. I'm tackling it right stinking now. And I went on the Hulk roller coaster, which was a pretty intense coaster for like not wanting to ever, go upside down. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And that ended up being, for a long time, the only coaster that I would do, because it was the one that I conquered first. But then when California Screamin' kind of came out, I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to do this one now, and it's nowhere near as extreme, so I should be okay. And honestly, California Screamin' is one of the best, smoothest coasters I have ever been on. That roller coaster is just super, super clean. It's just like the ride experience is fantastic. And, Disney doesn't do a lot of coasters, but I want them to, because if they're all like that, it's going to be good. It's a really good one. And obviously Space Mountain has been around for forever, and that thing's gone through like several refurbishments, but I'm talking like true coasters, like roller coasters, the really kind of extreme ones. Like California Screamin' is just a great, like, the hills, the airtime, everything about it is so fantastic. And I've been looking at, Disney has like a little YouTube channel, not little, but like it's a YouTube channel, and they post like little mini video documentaries is what I was trying to say. I just didn't say that right. So they post these little mini video documentaries, and there's this Slinky roller coaster that they've created, and I think it's over in their Florida, theme parks. I think it's in the Magic Kingdom, but I could be wrong about that. But they're making a Toy Story like land, and they're making this Slinky coaster, and it looks friggin' adorable because it's Slinky from Toy Story. I mean, what's not to love? And you're making him a roller coaster, and he's the ride vehicle. It's brilliant. Another one I would love to do is the new, well, I guess it's not new, but new-ish, the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the mine cart like ride that they have there, because the cars are somewhat independent from each other. They're still linked, but the cars, like the passenger cars, let's say it's each car holds 4 people. They're independent from each other, but they're still linked, but they can rock back and forth. So you kind of have this swaying motion while you're on the coaster. It's a really fun idea. If you take the extreme version of that, then you have like X, which if you've never been on X, like that, oh my gosh, that thing is intense. Like there are still a couple of coasters that get me, I have to like think about it twice before I get on them. And Magic Mountain is home to many of them, Superman being included. So that's something I still have. I have a fear of heights. And so, being on airplanes, I'm not a huge fan of. And then just like dropping rides, I am not a fan of. I do not like dropping rides. And I have a couple of exceptions for that rule. The Tower of Terror, which is now the Guardians ride, is one of them. Just because it's Disney, and I trust them a bit more than I would like a state fair or something. Like I just don't trust a lot of places that just drop you, But the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I haven't been on, so I'll just, refer to it as the Tower of Terror. It's not as extreme as some of the other ones that I've seen. And Superman, if you've never been on that one, like literally all it does is shoot you straight up or straight forward, and then you go straight up. And I remember one time, I always remember that you shot forward, but one time, and I don't know if this was for some kind of like summer event, you went backwards. I was not prepared for that. I tried to scream, but the screams did not leave my body. The screams remained internal in my head as I now realize that I was near vertical, facing down and being like, this is it. This is how I go. This is how I die. And the guy at the station was such a little butt about it. And, like, not butt as in like bad. Like he was obviously having fun. And, if I didn't have anxiety at the time, I would have thought it was hilarious, But I think it's funny now. But he was just basically like, oh, I'm going to push the button. Oh, I'm gonna push the button. And then he presses it, and then you're just like, in 5 seconds, you are no longer anywhere near that coaster station. So it was a bit intense, if I gotta say so myself. So X is definitely one of those ones where I kind of like look like, oh, I don't know about that one. Tatsu is another one. I will never, ever, ever, ever enjoy those flying coasters. They're the ones where you're literally like, you're kind of like belly down to the ground, so you're being kind of like just held in place, and I feel so unsafe. I feel so unsafe in those things, and I know you're perfectly fine, nothing bad's gonna happen, but my brain does not understand that concept, and it tells me to run, but you can't, because you're bolted in that thing, and you're going for a crazy ride. I had a lot of fun making this coaster station. Like, one of the things I want to improve on a lot more is just structures and building styles in general. Like, there's a lot of builders in this game that just, they know the different types of structures and design styles. And I'm gonna be real with you all, I don't. Like, I just kind of know what I think looks nice, and I'm not gonna be like, yeah, that's obviously a ranch style home, or that's obviously from this era. I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of, I make them as I go, and if they look good, they look good. That's basically my design principle. And I should probably read up more on different types of buildings and making things more quote unquote realistic. And I know that's probably something I could personally improve on, so I might have to do some reading up on different, style of buildings and, different eras of buildings. And there's a couple times, especially in the DreamWorks park, where I did look at reference, specifically for the area of the park that didn't get made, because that park was turning into a living nightmare, especially when it jumped between different versions of the game. Was the Kung Fu Panda area. I was looking at a lot of the architecture from that particular movie and just trying to figure out how to emulate it, because there's still not a lot of pieces that facilitate that, and unless you're like some of the pros that I've been watching where they're building all this stuff custom and just like, whoa, blows my mind. Like, it takes a long time to build that stuff, and the stuff that I'm doing takes a while to build. Like, I have fun with it, but sometimes I'm just like, whoo, this is gonna be an all-day thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's definitely gonna be an all-day thing. So that's why I'm excited to really bring something I'm really passionate about, which is animation and art, and being able to incorporate that here. And this episode in particular, I was like super energized to get in there and just start building stuff, and just looking at the park now with the custom textures, like I get excited to look at it. I'm like, oh, it looks so great, this is making me so happy, and I just want to keep doing that, and just keep making really fun stuff. So one of the things I wanted to add was Yoshi Eggs, because as the coaster leaves the station, basically I want two animations. I want one at the end of the ride when you're pulling back into the coaster station, and one when you're exiting the coaster station. So at the very, very beginning, I'm thinking that we're gonna have kind of like this theater, which you'll see there's kind of like this theater built up right as the coaster leaves the station to make the first left turn and then go up the drivetrain to head up the incline for the first drop. There's a little bit of a theater there, so I wanted to build like these Yoshi eggs, and I didn't know if I wanted them to be flat or if I wanted them to be kind of like three-dimensional. So we ended up going with a more three-dimensional look, and you'll see I played around with the idea because there's not really a good egg shape in the game. It's either you got a circle or you got an oval. That's basically it. Every time I was trying to make something, it just ended up looking like a lumpy snowman, which it still kind of looks a little silly, but I'm happy with it for now. We might go back and change it up later, but for now it's just going to stay there. But anyways, so the first animation is literally going to be, I want a green Yoshi to come kind of like just walking out, and then he waves to the coaster, and then he starts running, and then I just want like a herd of other Yoshis to go running by. Right? So I just want a bunch of Yoshis, and it'll be really easy too, because basically I'm just making one animation and just changing all the color of the Yoshis and then just duplicating them. So it's not going to take terribly long. I just need to make one running animation and then reuse it. And then the same thing for at the end, it's going to be a lot of reused animations to kind of like, you know, give it a little bit of style, but not, you know, take too long to make it. So at the end, I just want like a bunch of Yoshis just kind of like celebrating, like, yay, you made it through the ride. We're so happy. We're dancing. And, so I'll probably make like 2 to 3 dancing Yoshis for that part, and then we'll just reuse them and, like I said, change the color of the Yoshis. So that's the stuff that's coming up in the future, and like I said, I'm really excited for it. But in the next episode, we're going to be doing a lot more with the screens. We're going to be adding a logo and a Yoshi character to the theming of this ride, and we're going to be adding some animated screens for the queue of the ride. So again, go check out my main channel, ChitChad Show, next week. It's going to be an all Yoshi week, and it's going to be really cool. So like I said, go check that out, and then come back here next Friday to see them in the park. I'm super excited. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Go have an amazing day, and as always, I will chat with you later.